right, we're glad to have you back. A huge row broke out Sunday night over the conduct of the February the 16th presidential election that is upcoming. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo launched another verbal and written attack at the presidency.
Yeah, in a 16-page document, the former president wrote that President Muhammadu Buhari is not physically fit for his position and accused him of condoning corruption among his officials. He accused the government of nepotism and incompetence. He also doubted the neutrality of the Independent National Electoral Commission in the coming election and accused President Buhari of executing a self-succession plan like the late head of state, General Sani Abacha. In his view, Nigeria is sliding back to the Abacha era.
These are very, very strong allegations. And the presidency has reacted to former President Olusegun Obasanjo's latest attacks on the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, saying, and I quote, "You're sick, get well soon." A statement by Buhari's senior special assistant on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, noted that Mr. Obasanjo's allegation that Buhari had plotted with the Independent National Electoral Commission to rig the presidential poll existed only in his imagination, and there was nothing, there was no such plan in the pipeline.
Yeah, the presidency also stated, excuse me, that Obasanjo was simply jealous of Buhari's achievements and the goodwill the latter enjoys in the hearts of his supporters. He further attacked Mr. Obasanjo, saying that his administration failed in tackling corruption where Buhari's was succeeding, recalling that Obasanjo spent 16 billion naira on power but did not add a single megawatt to the country's electricity supply.
Well, right here in the studio, we have a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jide. Nice to see you.
Yes, Happy New
Thank
Year.
you.
It's the first time we're seeing this year. And also joining us from our Abuja studio is the chairman of the Advanced People's Democratic Alliance, APDA, Kabiru Shitu. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kabir.
All right, let's start with you right here in the studio, Mr. Ologun. I wonder what your thoughts are. I'm sure you've read through this letter, another letter from former President Olusegun Obasanjo to President Buhari. So many issues raised, so many concerns.
Yeah.
Very strong ones, especially when you consider this one that talks about, comparing President Buhari to former head of state and dictator.
Yeah, it's characteristic of him. If you go back to 2007, he's the one that rose up to ensure that Yar'Adua became the president, even though we had contestants like Atiku, like Peter Odili then. And of course, you recall that he was quite instrumental into ensuring that Goodluck Jonathan, who then was the vice president, took over when Yar'Adua passed on. And of course, he was quite vocal when Yar'Adua was ill, demanding that he should step aside. And going forward also, even though he supported Jonathan, at the time he fell out with Jonathan and wrote letters too to Jonathan. And
is it deja vu? I mean, that point that you just raised, President Buhari had former President Olusegun Obasanjo's support in 2015.
I'm just laying a foundation towards that.
Yes.
And of course, he fell out with Jonathan, claiming that you can only help a man to get a job, not to do it. Obviously not satisfied by the level of performance. He also alleged corruption. He alleged, making the nation, drift from the focus of development. And that made him to go out of PDP. He even told the card openly. And many thought it was a joke. But alas, that led to the exit of Jonathan from government. And of course, bringing in the present president, Muhammadu Buhari, he was also instrumental. And some of us know some of the politics that went behind. And this is not the first time he's writing about his dissatisfaction with the present state of affairs in the country. And of course, what we should do is not to quickly jump to conclusions. And personally, I will ask myself, are these allegations real? Is this the best we can have as a people? When you look at the three critical areas that we should have expected performance. You talk about security in the country, so you and I know that we are in a very dire situation now. Yeah. You talk about the economy, which we may summarize, despite our huge potential, that it is not safe, that Nigeria is the capital of poverty. Then you talk about corruption. And of course, even though the fight against corruption started well, it derailed somewhere along the line, you know, which came to a crescendo recently when Adams Oshiomhole came out to address politicians that all you need to do is come to APC and your sins are forgiven. Particularly when we have the evidence of some who have migrated and their sins appear to have been forgiven. So when you put all this together, I think an elder statesman should be concerned. Perhaps the way that is expressed is a different ball game. But he is not the first person. Yeah. The General Theophilus Danjuma, retired, also came out to express a serious concern about the state of insecurity. In fact, he even alleged that the military is colluding with the killers. So these are issues of our time.
All right, let's bring in Kabir Shitu in here. Former President Obasanjo titled his 16-page letter as points for concern and action. When it comes to letters, the former president has been very good with writing letters of concern. Former presidents have all had a pinch of his attention on this. Now, when it comes to all the issues that were raised, how much of concern should the government of the day have when it comes to these letters, especially considering how he was, or what letters he wrote that led to the changing government in 2015? Kabiru, are you there?
Okay. Yes, for us, first of all, I want to say former President Obasanjo is an elder statesman who is respected both in Nigeria and internationally. Is somebody that is just like a father or mother to their child. They always see a child as if whatever he's doing, he has not done well. But there's time that you have to come to note that this child has grown. So I think this is how President Obasanjo is viewing Nigeria, and that's why you see so many letters that he writes. One thing you can take away from him is that he believes in indivisibility of this country. He believes in the unity of the country. And politically, he is a military man. He has come to power, he has seen it. He believes that he has to correct some leaders. In this respect, from his antecedent, from what he has been doing, writing and things, I think the government concerned should now look at, okay, this man has written this letter. What are the points that the great areas he pointed out in these letters, and government take this side. And we should also note that Baba Obasanjo is seeing Nigerian as an egg. When you give a child an egg is about falling off his hand. His fear is that this egg will break in his hand. But I want to assuage the fear of Baba Obasanjo to say we have come of age, and he should now start looking Nigerian on a developmental area.
All right, Kabiru.
Now
Kabiru, let me ask you.
And that will.
Yeah, Kabiru, let me ask you. From what you said that the government of the day should have looked at some of the issues he has raised. Now, I believe you have read the response of the presidency to this. Do you think the tone of that letter shouldn't have been that much from what you just raised?
Yes. You see, what I'm telling you, he has raised something. Federal government has raised its own. Nigerian will be better for this because it's now waking up the government. We had the same situation in 2015, where people were apprehensive. People were even looking at that. Jega is appointed by Jonathan, and there's no way that Jega will rig that election. there was music, there was riot, there was everybody rise up to say, look, Jega will, but at the end of the day, Jega proved us wrong. That this election, which became free, fair, and even acceptable to the government of the day, and they handed over to this government. So also now, 4 years after, people are raising apprehension. People are afraid. People are thinking INEC. So it left now for INEC. For us, as a stakeholder, we had meeting on the 7th of this month with INEC on consultativeness. And we all agree. And we look at the gray area. We look at the document. And we, in fact, our contribution on that 7th is mainly almost 70% of the guideline being brought out by INEC. So let Nigeria not get any, there's nothing to fear, because we, the stakeholders, believe that INEC are trying their best.
Okay. Well, the question would then be, let me bring it back to the studio here to Jide. Is INEC, Alhaji Kabir Shitu has said INEC is doing its best, but is it good enough, or do we need to wait for this election to come and go to decide whether indeed that INEC has lived up to expectation, if not even beyond it? But let's even look at the issues that President Olusegun, former president, raised. The issue of comparing President Buhari with, a leader that many people, in the minds of so many, would be not one of the best people that you want to say emerged leader of this country in the past.
You know, like Alhaji Kabiru mentioned, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is a soldier forever. Abacha, a soldier. The present president, a soldier. So they know themselves. So I don't want to go into that. But you know also that when Abacha was in office, few people could dare him. It was after he translated that we started having people coming out. And today we are still dealing with Abacha loot, and recall that many people were killed then. So perhaps he was making reference to that in line with the insecurity in the country. Just recently, the former chief of defense staff was killed in a frightening manner. A general also was killed in Plateau State. And you look at the level of desperation we are having and several controversies. I think he's just expressing what he is saying. And there's a saying that if a young man climbs a tree, an old man who is lying down will see further than where the young man can see. So these are people, they have managed Nigeria from...
But in this situation, you can hardly say either of the two parties really are young men. Anyhow,
I'm making reference to the younger generation, and I'm referring to them at the elderly level. And I was just about to say that they started managing this country from less than, some of them less than 30 years.
Not to cut you short, let me bring this in. There's a statement credited to the chairman of the APC, Adams Oshomole, where he actually said that ex-military generals, cannot decide the future of Nigeria. And you wonder, is he preaching to the choir?
They have been deciding the fortune of this country. I mean, it's there. They are power brokers. And we cannot deny that. You're talking of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, you're talking of IBB, talking of Abacha. Even President Buhari himself was once a military head of state. All of them, they are power brokers. They know themselves. And that's why sometimes, we should be careful getting involved in what is going on. And that is why when General Theophilus Danjuma retired, challenged this government on the military colluding with terrorists in court. I mean, few Nigerians can embark on such a level of allegations. They know themselves. And that is why once in a while you hear a tantrum flying across board. For example, the $16 billion on electricity. They know themselves. They know what they have done. But like someone rightly pointed out, I think Nigeria is making progress, giving room for the future we so much desire. If the young generation of politicians, we come together and focus less on just going to, win partisan elections and see how we can deliver this country. Because if you ask me, let's go to INEC. Historically, the Electoral Commission of Nigeria was established in 1959 to handle the regional elections. And of course, by 1960, you have FEDECO, the Federal Electoral Commission of Nigeria, that handled the federal and regional elections of 1964 and 1965. And after the coup, it was dismantled. But this body was brought back to handle the 1979 elections and down. And in 1995, Abacha instituted the National Electoral Commission
of Nigeria.
All right. And in 1998, INEC emerged. So we have had this institution over the years. But now, the function is to, manage free, fair, and credible elections, to put in place a governance institution, which we call democracy, to advance the fortunes of the nation. There are two sides of democracy. You have the procedural, which makes reference to what INEC is trying to do and all the players there. And you have the substantial democracy, which is what you deliver, that can be captured under the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, if you go to chapter 2. Basically, to secure the people, provide for the people, create an enabling environment. And the big question you now ask is that, given our investments into democracy, since we embraced that culture of governance, what have we achieved? Should my country be in the state it is now, the headquarters of poverty, almost 60 years after political independence? And these are issues of concern. Okay. And you know why I'm happy?
Or you could even
all
say,
those,
yes,
majority of those who have been active in managing the country, God has kept some of them alive, so they must be concerned.
All right.
They must be concerned.
Exactly. We expect them to certainly be concerned because they'll be comparing the past and the present. Let's bring in Kabiru Shitu back in here. Now, when it comes to INEC, that is one of the very current issues going on right now. The former president said, well, even if INEC is ready to conduct a free and fair election, will the ruling party allow INEC to conduct a free and fair election? And so that made him to have skepticism as to INEC conducting a free and fair election, especially when he's also talking about the fact that from the ward level to the national level, that the president's hatchet men are putting all plans together to ensure that results are even ready before the elections. Talk to us about that as regards what INEC should do to make Nigerians become very confident in what they want to do.
INEC, I'm not here to speak on their behalf, but from the little I know from our consultative meeting with them, we talk to say they should not allow either telephone near the ballot box. Why? So that it will discourage this vote buying, because people now are device and means, where if you take a phone, after you thumbprint, you take the picture and then you go back and take your money. You see, we solved that problem. And these are in line with what I propagate as chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council in 2012, which has been turned into bill, to say, put up Electoral Offences Commission, where all this will be sorted out. In fact, we even propose in that there should be no any weapon of such that should be taken near, even the police, so that we will take the electoral process will look civil. And if you have Electoral Offences Commission around that is already existing, people know that there are some people there watching them. Nobody would violate those laws. And we also, in this last consultative meeting, we brought that. And that is why you see, they said nobody should take phone near. And then they also said, look, paste, as soon as election is over, you paste the result, even at the polling booth. And we also agree to say, look, instead of people voting and going back after accreditation and come back to vote, as you accredit them, allow them to vote. so that they just go or wait to hear their results.
All right, back to
This
the...
will help in the timing. It will help us in the where people will have accredit and go back, and they now collect money.
Okay.
And come back and then thumbprint and vote for.
So it is incumbent on INEC to,
because you don't have your phone there for anybody to talk with you.
All right. Is incumbent on INEC to assure the people on what they're doing and how they're doing it, as the case may be.
Yes, indeed. Well, 20 years of democracy this year. A lot of people have actually pointed out that every 20-year cycle, it's a place of decision for Nigeria, whether to move forward on democracy or to, backstep so many steps back. Do you think Nigeria's democracy is threatened with the prevailing situation? INEC itself has actually raised concerns about security during the election. The United States has raised issues. As a matter of fact, the U.S. came out with a warning recently to its citizens that there are likely chances that Boko Haram may strike during the February election. And then, of course, the police has been trying to reassure Nigerians that it will up its game with the, of course, there's a new IG, an acting IG in place. Is this democracy, from all indications, is it under any kind of threat whatsoever?
Democracy belongs to the people, and they allow some stakeholders to go in there by election to manage it. And if they don't manage it, even when they desperately hold on, they exit someday. So I don't see the Nigerian democracy threatened, except there is a coup, which is no longer even accepted globally.
Or fashionable.
Exactly. The fact that you have an opportunity and go in to mismanage a process does not constitute a threat, because democracy is an ongoing process. The America we commend today, they have gone through thick and thin. The Canada, even Rwanda, went through a serious genocide that may even be assessed to be worse than what we are going through in state of the insecurity in Nigeria. But somewhere along the line, a leader, one of them, emerged and said enough of this madness. And right now, it's a fast-growing economy. You can also make reference to Tanzania, where John Magufuli is bringing order. So my advice is that if you have the opportunity, I mean, a party will win in 2019. I don't know which party will win. But if you have the opportunity of making Nigeria better, why not? What do we benefit from all these rancors? Now we've come to the point where you are telling Chief Olusegun Obasanjo he is sick, a man of 90 who is looking healthy. And, I mean, we should go beyond the mundane. We are celebrating the fact that a presidential candidate is going to America, a party is threatening another candidate that you cannot go to America. Now he has gone and come back. And we are not paying attention to education, productive and effective education. We are not paying attention to, sound and affordable health care. The first road in Nigeria was constructed historically in 1906 between Ojo and Oyo. What is the state of our roads today? We have the widest network of roads in Africa. All right. Do you know that the first railway line in Nigeria was opened in 1898? And now we are shouting about the gridlock of Apapa. There was, rail line to link the businesses. And these things were done by the British colonial government. They didn't see themselves as masters. They set us up on the path of development. You see, do you also know that the first power station...
Although some scholars would say that path of development was skewed and had a motive to an agenda for the British rather.
Why? Let me ask you a question. Why did they come to Africa? They saw the potentials and the minerals. We are all investors. Why did you go to school? What was it, to go and waste your time?
Yeah,
was it not to empower your future and be relevant and enjoy life? And that's what we are saying. So we have a huge potential to be the greatest country in the world.
Okay.
Yes.
And it
Let's-
lies in the hands of those who manage the resources.
All right, Jide,
Governance
let's
is
put you
about
on hold.
managing resources.
Yeah, Jide, let's put you on hold, and Kabir Shitu, let's put you all on hold, and then go up for the news update for the time, and then we come back to round off